Shachri Page 1, gratitude. Demo, 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 Back to page 1. Modani lefanecha ruachai v'kayam. Modani lefanecha ruachai v'kayam shechazarta bi nishmati lechem la'arama emunatecha. Ground yourself in gratitude, grounding 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 in gratitude, grounding. Rising with blessings, 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 rising with morning blessings. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lasech bivina lehavchin bein yom uvein leila. You make us conscious, discerning beings. Amen.
We invite you to rise and join us on page 4. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tzalmo, who's made me in your image.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam, shastani bat chorin, you make me a daughter of freedom. Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael, who's made me Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Shechina Eloteinu ruach haolam, pokachat ivrim, you open up our blind spots. Amen.
Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish shalumim, who clothes the naked.
Amen. Baruch atah Shechina Eloteinu ruach haolam, matira asurim, you untie our tangles.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokev kefufim, who straightens the bent over.
Amen. Who lets us do morning stretches? Let's get our morning stretch. Bending around, let our bodies uncreak. It's hard to uncreak. Brucha Shechina Eloteinu ruach haolam, roka'at haaretz al hamayim, you spread earth over water. Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asali kol tzarchi, who gives me all I need.
Amen. Brucha atah Shechina Eloteinu ruach haolam, mechinam b'tzadei geveret, you make the ground underneath me steady. Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Ozer Yisrael bigvura, who gives Yisrael strength.
Amen. Brucha atah Shechina Eloteinu ruach haolam, oteret Yisrael b'tifara, you surround us with glory. Amen.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten la'ayef koach, who gives endurance to the weary.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam, ma'avira sheina meinai, utenuma me'afapai, you remove sleep from my eyes and slumber from my eyelids. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam. What are the blessings? You're coming into the sanctuary this morning. What do you have this morning that's coming up, bubbling up? What's a blessing? Amen. Forgiving. Amen. What else? Amen. All these blessings that we spoke, all these blessings that we sang, all these blessings in our heart we say amen. On page 6, for the power of blessings, for the power of words to create our blessings. Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu. Page 6.
Baruch Shemo,
Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Shamar ve'hayolam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shamar ve'hayolam, Baruch Hu, Baruch Aseh v'Reishit, Baruch Omer v'Yoseh, Baruch Ozer u'Mekayem, Baruch Merachem al haaretz, Baruch Merachem al habriot, Baruch V'Shalem Zacharto l'Reya, Baruch Chai La'ad V'Kayam L'Netzach, Baruch Podeh U'Matzil, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Yachid Chai Olamim, Melech Meshubach U'Mefoar, Adei Ad Shemo Agadol, Baruch atah Adonai Melech Mehulal, Batish Bachot, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo, Baruch Hu, Baruch Shemo,
Baruch Hu, Baruch Shalom.
You may be seated. We move from blessing to radical amazement. So I'm constantly reading parenting books because my child is a puzzle. And I think that I might find a piece here and there every time I read another parenting book. So there's one piece in one of the parenting books that I'm reading right now, and it says that if your child gets angry, you have to divert them with awe. Move them from anger to awe. Get them to notice a crack in the sidewalk if they're outside. Get them to notice like the breeze, the trees outside your window. And the book says also that when they're not angry, try to cultivate this kind of awe and radical amazement all the time so that it becomes a muscle that when they're in anger, the thing they move to is awe. And I'm realizing that it's not only amazing for children, but I think it's actually all of us, that if we cultivate that level of awe. Now, I am realizing with the aid of a therapist that I should actually wear my glasses so I can see more and actually experience more awe when I can actually see. I think my glasses are in my pocket, but anyways, but I've had glasses since I was 14, and I'm realizing that our power to see is so strong if we can see. And the power to unlock the mystery of every single molecule in the entire universe opens up portals and layers, and it's like endless, the amount of spaciousness we can create within ourselves. And this spaciousness is such a tool and such an armor that we can use when we get to that place of anger. So let's sing Radical Amazement with Ma Gadlu. So let's make our grounding, our seat, that place of radical amazement that all the things that we actually have already in our life are having quotient. In the box, Ashrei. Ashrei.
Ashrei.
Yoshvei.
Yoshvei.
Veitecha. Oh, dear hallelujah. Selah. Ashrei. Yoshvei. Veitecha. Oh, dear hallelujah. Selah. Potea. Et yadecha umasbiha. Lechochai rason.
Va'anachnu nivarech
Nevarech
Me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Va'anachnu nivarech Me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Page 11.
Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah el bekodsho. Hallelujah birki azo. Hallelujah bigvulota. Hallelujah kerov Lord. Hallelujah betake a shofar.
Hallelujah, b'neva v'chino.
Hallelujah betofu machor. Hallelujah benim belgad. Hallelujah b'tzilzalei shama. Hallelujah b'tzilzalei trua. Kol hanshama tehalleluya. Kol hanshama tehalleluya. Hallelujah b'tzilzalei shama. Hallelujah b'tzilzalei trua. Kol hanshama tehalleluya. Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Every breath is praising Yah. 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 Every breath is Take a breath in the every breath of your ever breathing breathing. Take another deep breath. Bring in all of your emotions. Take another deep breath and bring in all your thoughts. Take one last breath and breathe in all those who are breathing around you. Page 13. Nishma kochai tevarech et shemcha Adonai Eloheinu. 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 Breathing life toward your name, our God. Read the words, find the line, stay with the line. You alone, secure our lives, secure our lives. Ilu, finu, male shirakaya. 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 6 lines from the bottom of page 14. Male shirakaya. Mi yitmelach umi yishmelach umi ya'aroch lach. Ha'el hagadol hagibor vehanora El Elyon. Kodesh Shamayim va'aretz. Lehalacha uleshabechacha unefaerecha. Unevarech et shem kachecha kamor leDavid. Yadadadai, yadadadai, hayadadai, Barchi nafshi et Adonai.
Shochena Maharon Vekadosh Shemo Shochena Maharon Vekadosh Shemo
Befi Yesharim Titroma Uvdivrei Tzadiku Titpara Shochena Maharon Vekadosh Shemo Shochena Maharon Vekadosh Shemo
ובראשו
חסידי
תתקדש
תתקדש
וקרב קדושי תתעלה
Shochena Maharon Vekadosh Shemo Shochena Maharon Vekadosh Shemo
ובמקלות ובמבואות עמך בית ישראל ורינה יתפאר שמך מלכנו בכל דור ודור שכחובה כל היצורים לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי עוברינו להודות להלל לשבח לפאר לרומם להדר לברך לעלה ולקלס על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך
Shochena Maharon Vekadosh Shemo Shochena Maharon Vekadosh Shemo.
Please rise, page 16. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו אל המלך הגדול והקדוש בשמיים וארץ כלחנה אדוני אלוהינו אלוהי ירדו שיר ושבחה הלל וזמרה עוז נפש לנצח גדולה גבורה תהילה ותפארת קדושה ומלכות ברכות והודאות מעתה ועד עולם ברוך אתה אדוני המלך הגדול ותשבחות אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות הבוחר בשירי זמרה מלך אלכי העולמים. חצי קדש on page 17. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה וילמד בחירותי וימליך מלכותי בחיי חון וביום חון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה וזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתרעל שמי Dikud shabrichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushvechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'imru.
Amen. You may be seated. Except if you're new and you're here for the first time. That's so I'm gonna come over to you and but you can sit or you can stand. Maybe this. You can sit. I want to give you a hug. Nasya and Vacha. Good Shabbos. What's your name?
Scott Johnson, Los Angeles. I go to ECAR, but I'm a BJ person here, and I think you used to jam at BJ
Correct.
decades ago. I used to see you there.
Yes, I was 10. I was the percussionist at the time. Yes.
Hi, I'm Mike Spector from Brooklyn.
We are actually having services next Friday night in Brooklyn. We have a Romemu Brooklyn Satellite Community of Hanukkah. So if you don't, yes, so we can help download that information later.
Mike Goldweber from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Welcome, both of you. And, oh,
I don't know if I should stand up again. Okay, I'm Trudy Sturm, and I'm here for my son passed away this week. And also, I wanted to ask, because I'm not that knowledgeable, I had a patient that died on Hanukkah, and Marty Riemann, am I allowed, could we say him in the prayer too? Or it has to be an immediate death?
if every person that's meaningful to you, that has meaning, who had meaning in your life. When we get to the Mourner's Kaddish at the end of the service, we'll come around again. It's good to see you again.
Hi, wonderful service. I'm Nikki Stiller, otherwise known as Nahama. Heard a lot about this congregation, New Worker Footsteps. I'm from up the block.
Up the block. You know, the last few weeks, we've been getting like hordes of people who live in the
Up the block.
up the block.
Some of them live in Brooklyn. They just want to say up the block.
And is there anybody new from the Zoomverse? We can put the chat. Is there any new folk on the Zoom? It's great to see you, Margot Sharon. I see you on the first, Razel and Daniel Kurtzner. It's great to see you guys, Laura. And actually, I see Jackson Mercer on the Zoomverse too. Really good to see you, Jackson. Debbie Kugelman, Estelle Hefferling. There's Good Shabbos, everyone, from Yonatan Katz. Is there anybody? Oh, wow. Yonatan Katz from Uganda. Okay, Yonatan, if you want, you can invite me to Uganda for the next year. I'd love to bring some of Romemu flavor out to Africa. I've been to Africa many times, and I love being there. So let's do something together. Anybody else for the first time here? I think that's it. So I know it's like post-Thanksgiving, everyone's still recovering, really great that you are all here. I'm going to do something we used to do. We're gonna have a few announcements. I'm just gonna tell you a few things that are coming up. There's a Revaya this Sunday night, first night of Hanukkah. We're gonna light candles and we're gonna dance the night away. So bring your energy, your spirit, your light, and we're gonna dance. And we're gonna shine another light on anti-Semitism during Hanukkah. And that is happening at the UJ Federation of New York, but it's going to be synchronized with displays at Times Square, billboards, and more. And another amazing event, December 3rd, Lighting the Way, Jewish Song, Art, and Activism. I don't know if that's December 2nd. Activism in the climate movement, hosted by Dayenu, with 4 artists and presentations. They will fill us with spirit, inspire us to act and reimagine what climate activism can look like. And there's so many other things, Beit Midrash, and so many learning opportunities. So please just check our website, check all our notifications, sign our email list, and you will be knowledgeable on all those things. I invite you to rise. And I just feel like in this time where it's getting colder and colder, if you feel comfortable, I would love it if during the Baruch Hu, which is our call to community, if you can come around the bima and sing with us, it would feel a lot cozier to me than feeling you so far away.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leholam Vaed Leholam Vaed
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ruach haolam Yotzer or uvorei choshech oseh shalom uvorei atakol forming light, creating darkness, making peace, creating all. Hakol yoducha, vehakol yeshavucha, vehakol yomiru, Kadosh Kadonai, Hakol yoducha, vehakol yeshavucha, vehakol yomiru, Kadosh Page 21, or Chadash. Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir v'nizkechu lanu meheira le'oro. Or Chadash al Tzion Ta'ir v'nizkechu lanu meheira le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai yotzer hameorot. Ay, 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 ay. Haray, ay, 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 Maybe put a hand on your heart. I think I'm going to incur some beautiful teaching that Rabbi Dan Kolarsis shared with us last night. That was you, everyone, like right there, right there. I think it's one of the most beautiful, profound teachings on love. That when we don't think of each other as higher or lower, or think of ourselves as higher or lower, we don't rank ourselves, we don't compare, we don't judge. I mean, it's mostly impossible, but in sort of, even if tapping into the possibility of linking one to another, linking our hearts, linking our spirits, linking our powers to bring good into the world, I think that's the energy that brings more love into the space, into our hearts, into the big, wider universe around us. So let's find that space of love within us, around us, find our seats, and we're going to chant our love prayer on page 22 and 23. Ahava, Ahava, Ahava Rabba,
Ahava Rabba,
Ahavtanu, Ahava,
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 Ahava Rabba, Ahava
Rabba,
We are loved.
We are loved.
We are loved.
We are loved.
By an unending love.
By an unending
love. We are loved, loved, loved.
We are loved, loved, loved.
You keep such great love flowing toward us, along with our ancestors. We knew security. You pour your heart, your nurturing, nurturing love. Open our hearts, open our hearts, open our hearts, open our hearts, untangle our hearts, untangle our hearts, untangle our hearts, untangle our hearts, open our hearts, open our hearts, open our hearts, open our hearts, untangle our hearts, untangle our hearts, tangle our minds, untangle our minds, to receive with total awareness. Let us know, comprehend, learn, teach, hear, become in the profound image of the divine. Your guidance, your Torah, your love, your love, your love, your love, your love. Aharu, Ata, Adonai, Adonai, Hamikarev Amo Yisrael, B'Ahava. Shema Yisrael, ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך, page 25, בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום ללבבך. Vidantam levanecha V'dibarta ba b'shivtecha b'beitecha U'elachtecha v'derech U'v'shokbecha u'kumecha U'kshartam le'ot al yadecha V'hayu l'totafot b'neinecha U'ktatam ha'mezuzot b'itecha U'visharecha v'haya'im shavua tishme'u el mitzvotai asher anachim Adonai, your earthly needs will be met at the right time if you really listen and hear my direction, which I give you today. For loving Adonai, who is your God, and acting godly with fear, you'll reap you have planted. Delight and health, and animals will have ample feed. All of you will eat and be content. Be careful, don't let your cravings delude you. Don't be alienated, don't let your cravings become gods or debase yourself. I am rather than Moshe, I am rather than Fringes on your garments will be reminders of your heart, reminders of your breath in the breath of all life. I am in all the breath of all life, the breath of all life, the breath of all life, breath of all life, the 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 breath of all life, Adonai Elohechem Emet.
Emet ata, emet ata, urishon, ata u'acharon, It might sound like we're saying, might sound like we're ranking, you're first, you're last. But it's actually totally different. Your word of the day is merism, MEIRISM. It's like when you say, I'm gonna sing all day and all night. You don't mean that you're gonna sing something during the day and then you're gonna sing something at night. You actually mean you're just gonna sing the whole time. And that's what we're saying. Hu acharon, hu rishon. And the word emet, aleph, mem, tav, it's the first letter of the alphabet and the last letter of the alphabet. The whole thing is a big merism to say like all, everything. Like it's not even linked because it's one big thing. It's one big circle. It's not ranking, I promise.
I love it. And I think you're bringing us right into like a portal of liberation. Do you feel it?
Mm-hmm.
Please rise. We're going to be liberated right now. Boy, if it was that easy, right? It could be that easy. Every moment, there is a liberation. There is a way. There is that circle, that tiny circle you can jump through. It might have fire. You might be too big for that circle. But there is that portal. Oshe uvnei Yisrachal anu shira v'smacha rabba v'amru cholam. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele, shira chadasha shebechu geurim, leshemecha sefatayam, yachad kulam hodu vehem lichu, ayadai yamba v'yamru, Adonai yimloch, le'olam va'ed, da-da-da-da-yai, yamba-da-dai-dai-dai-dai, hay-ya-na-dai-dai, yamba-da-dai-dai-dai-dai, hay-ya-na-dai-dai, yamba-da-dai-dai-dai, hay-ya-na-dai-dai, yamba-da-dai-dai-dai, hay-ya-na-dai-dai, yamba-da-dai-dai, hay-ya-na-dai-dai, yamba-da-dai-dai, hay-ya-na-dai-dai, yamba-da-dai-dai. Zohor Yisrael, Kuma Be'ezrat Yisrael, Uvtechen Umecha Yehuda v'Yisrael. Go Aleinu Adonai Tzvaot Shemo, Kehedosh Yisrael. Ay-ya-nay-ay, yam-ba-da-da-da-da-yay. Ay-ya-nay-ay, yam-ba-da-da-da-doy. Ay-ya-nay-ay, yam-ba-da-da-da-yay. Ay-ya-nay-ay, yam-ba-da-da-da-da-yay. Baruch atah Adonai, Kol Yisrael. Amidah on page 31. Nice. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Gula L'vnei V'neihem, L'man Shemo B'Yahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah.
Ata gibor leolam Adonai, mechaye metim atara lehoshia, meshiv haruch umorid hagashem, mechalchel chayim bechesed, mechaye metim berachamim rabim, somech noflim berofel cholim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato b'shenei Yeshua, v'ne'eman ata lechachayot meitim. Baruch אתה אדוני מחיי המתים.
מקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך על הארץ כבודו אז בכל רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנסים ליום הצרפים ליום מתן ברוך יומנו יאי 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 עלינו כי היא מחכה ואנחנו לך כי היא מחכה ואנחנו לך אוי מתי תמלוך בציון וקרוב בימינו לעולם ותשכון תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים יהננו תיראנה מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך על ידי דוד משיח צדקך יאי די 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 לדור ודור נגיד גדלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש לדור ודור נגיד גדלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לי עולם ועד כי אל מלך האדום וקדוש אתה I keep saying it, but like what I'm really missing the most in shul is the children. It's a children's prayer for all the children that cannot be here right this minute. And all the children inside us. They need a little protection, a little light, the shining countenance of the divine on you. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yo'er Adonai panav elecha. V'yichuneka Yis Adonai panav elecha. V'yivsher lecha shalom. V'yaseh lecha shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Please rise for Kaddish Shalem if you're able on page 45. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, ויעמד יברך לבטא, וימלך מלכותי בחיי חונם ויומכן וחיי דכל בישראל בגלה וזמן קרב ויאמרו. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ליומי יומיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ותרומה ותנשא ותהדר ויתעלה ותעלה שמי דקודשה. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תשבחתה ונחמתה דמירם ויאמרה ויאמרו. אמן.
תתקבל סלותכון ובכון, לכל בית ישראל קודם ובכון די בשמיא ואמרו.
אמן.
יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיא וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו.
אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו.
Torah service can be found on page 46. Please remain standing. Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai ve'en kemasecha malchutcha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha bechol dor vador Adonai melech Adonai melech Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yiteh Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom av harachamim heitiv avertocha et Zion tivnei chomot Yerushalayim ki chomot Yerushalayim ki v'cha levad batachnu melech el ram v'nisa Adon olamim yai dai 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 yai dai 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 dai. We open the Torah on page 47. Vayehi ben Aharon, vayomer Moshe, Kuma Adonai, ve'afutzu oivecha, ve'yanusu misanecha mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, udvar Adonai miYerushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch
Natan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato.
Middle of page 47, this prayer is about trust, which is our theme for this year at Romemu's trust. What can we trust in? What can we put our yearning into that feels like trust? Be'anarachetz Velishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Be'anarachetz Be'anarachetz Velishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Yehi Rava Kadama V'tiftach libai ve'oraita V'tash l'mishalin V'libai V'liba Dechol Amach Yisrael V'tavu l'chayim V'lishlam Amen. Jackson will be calling out the Shema, and we'll all repeat after him.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlul Adonai iti, uneromema shemo yachdav.
Lecha Adonai hagedula v'hagevura, hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod, ki kol bashamayim uba'aretz, kol bashamayim uba'aretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlecha v'yamid aseh lechol merom. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, lehadom raglav kadoshu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu, v'hishtachavu, v'hishtachavu, lehar kadesho, ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Romemu, 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 Adonai Eloheinu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Ki kadosh Adonai
Shalom, everybody. Is that working?
Not, is it? Is, now it's working.
Okay, good. Close, like this.
Even closer.
Even closer.
Even
Cyrus,
closer.
maybe make it a little louder.
Louder, closer.
Now, oh my goodness.
Excellent. So today we're in Parshat Vayeshev, and it's a very dramatic parsha about the dysfunctional Israelite family. And we're going to open up, Chazan Basia and I, by talking a little bit about Joseph, Yosef in the pit. If you recall, his brothers, close. I'm getting signs about close. Okay. His brothers threw him into a pit. They were shepherding, and they were watching over their sheep, and they see Joseph coming from afar. They're in Shechem, and they plot against him. They take him, they strip him of his coat of many colors, and throw him into the pit. Now, a few words about this before we get into this theme. So this story about Joseph in the pit is actually right before what we're reading today, which is about Potiphar and Potiphar's wife approaching Joseph in some interesting ways. And maybe our colleagues will be addressing that today. I'm not sure.
They will be.
Jackson.
And Rabbi Mira?
Rabbi Mira. And then after that episode, Joseph is actually thrown into jail because Potiphar's wife accuses him of basically sexually harassing her. I'm not sure that's the right phrase in this particular situation, but coming on to her inappropriately, even though it was the opposite. And he's thrown into prison, but that prison is called a Beit Sohar, but it's also called in Hebrew a bor, a pit. So where we are right now is between the pit, right? The pit on this side and the pit on that side. So a few words about being in the pit. Later in Joseph's life, there's a midrash, right? There's a rabbinic commentary that tells us that Joseph visited the pit and made a blessing over it for a miracle done to save his life. So it's not clear if he's saying that bracha, that blessing, because he was saved from the pit or the pit itself saved him. So just two associations and then another midrash, and I'll turn it over to my friend here. When I think about being stripped of a coat of many colors or stripped of all your status and thrown into the pit, I think of two things. I think of being depressed when you feel like you have nothing and nothing's worth anything. You're stripped of your hope. And for me, very personally, when my daughter was 16, she was very sick with a life-threatening cancer. She's okay now. And we spent about 6 months at Sloan Kettering. And for me, that's the pit. Like I was stripped of everything in my life and focused on one thing, which was her survival. And I'm not ready to do this, but maybe one day I will go back and make a bracha for Sloan Kettering saving her life. So the other midrash, if you think about how do we survive the pit, when you fall into the pit and you're such a dark place, either for external reasons or internal reasons, how do you survive the pit? So there's a beautiful, beautiful story of legend of there's this glowing jewel that God gave Adam and Eve after he kicked them out of the Garden of Eden. And you can imagine at that moment, they were in the pit. They were depressed. They were sad. They left this beautiful place and had to deal with the outside world. So God gave them this glowing jewel to kind of light the way and remind them that there was hope. And they passed it on to their children, and it got to Noah, and then it got to Abraham, and Abraham gave it to his children, and finally Joseph got it. And it was around his neck, and even though the brothers stripped him of his ornamental tunic, the ketonet pasim, they didn't take the jewel away from him. So as he's in the pit, and there are scorpions and scurrying around and snakes, suddenly the jewel lights up and it gives him hope, and he's not afraid. So, with you, I want to wonder, what can light us up when we're in the pit? And of course, Hanukkah is coming, and I think about that spiritual light. But I turn it over to my colleague and friend Chazan Basya.
But I love that you share this midrash with me. Tell us the rest of it. Where does that light become afterwards? That light, where does it get buried and then becomes the Ner Tamid?
Yes, absolutely. So the Ner Tamid is what ultimately becomes of the jewel. Thank you, Chazan Basya. I forgot all about that. But here is the jewel right before our eyes to give us hope when we're in the pit or not in the pit.
So I love this Torah so much, and it reminds me of a Torah. I think one of our rabbis that was the most intimate with depression and like psycho-spiritual complexities is Reb Nachman of Bratslav. And I love working with his teachings, and he's got one beautiful teaching that I feel really connects to this Torah that you're teaching, and also connects us to what's happening to Yosef in this pit, because he's in this pit, and then this light happens. So he's in the pit, then the light lights him up. Then he gets taken out, he's up. He gets brought, in this first aliyah, he gets brought by the Ishmaelites and Egyptians to the house of Pharaoh, and he's recognized that for some reason, everything he touched turns into gold, like everything he touches.
In the house of Potiphar.
In the house of Potiphar. Sorry, so you're right. House of Potiphar, everything he touches turns into gold. And there he's given this like really high level like job, and all of a sudden Potiphar's wife is like, and then all of a sudden he's thrown back into the pit. So there's a lot of up and down, and there's a beautiful teaching, a dreidel teaching, that is going to bring us into this first aliyah, dreidel teaching by Reb Nachman. I'm going to read it because I can't do it justice by myself.
I have it here.
The world is a rotating, she has even, I think like we've come, okay, yeah, here. So the world is a rotating wheel. It is like a dreidel, where everything goes in cycles. Humans become angel, and angel becomes human. Head becomes foot, foot becomes head. Everything goes in cycles, revolving and alternating. All things interchange, one from another and one to another, elevating the low and lowering the high. All things have one root. There are transcendent beings such as angels, which have no connection with the material. There is the celestial world whose essence is the very tenuous. Finally, there is the world below, which is completely physical. All three come from different realms, but all have the same root. All creation is like a rotating wheel, revolving and oscillating. At one time, something can be on top like a head, with another one on the bottom like a foot. Then the situation is reversed. Head becomes foot, foot becomes head. Man becomes angel, angel becomes man. For the world is like a rotating wheel. It spins like a dreidel, with all things emanating from one root. And for the transcendent worlds, the lowest level of an upper world is higher than the highest level of a lower one. And this one root, I think of as a little bit of that light, that transcendent light, that light that the Ner Tamid comes from, that light that's with us each time. That light is kind of a reminder. And I think it's a reminder for us both. We're in the heights, when we're like kind of floating above everything, thinking, wow, like, every train catches its transfer. Every fruit you love is in season. It's like the world is singing to your spirit. And then you're so high, it's kind of like, and then that light's like, oh no, remind you, the humility. You have to kind of come down a little bit. And then when you're in the depths of the darkness, that light still reminds us, it's going to change. You just have to be inside the spinning of the wheel of the dreidel, and the spinning of everything. So how do we bring us into this?
Well, it's so interesting because for Joseph, he goes up and down, light, dark, until he interprets Pharaoh's dreams. And if you remember, Pharaoh's dreams are about deprivation and abundance. And Joseph's interpretation is to bring the abundance into the deprivation. So he finally learned something about integrating poles, right? It's like for Hanukkah, we remember the light in the darkness, right? Nothing's all dark and nothing's all light. And in fact, just to end where we began, when my daughter was sick, I used to say to her, just because everything's bad doesn't mean nothing is good. And it's true. Like, we met all kinds of wonderful people and kids, and there were some wonderful doctors, some not so wonderful, and some wonderful nurses and some not so wonderful. But But there were things, even in that experience, which felt like a complete nightmare, complete dark pit, there were moments of light.
So how do we, so this is
What's
the
your question?
invitation. Right, that was it, just-
What's the kavanah?
What's the kavanah?
Oh, I
We're
see.
building the
That's your question.
kavanah. We're building the kavanah from our conversation.
I think the kavanah is for those of us who need the wisdom of integrating light and dark and up and down and integrating poles. Like, how do we integrate polarities? We're not all good and we're not all bad. And how do we hold both of that, both of those places inside us, right? The shameful places, the wonderful places, the strong places, the weak places. How do we hold all that at once?
I love it. So if that kavanah is speaking to you at this moment, please come up and be the person, the people who are blessing the Torah.
The reading is on page 238 if you're following in the Etz Chaim. Amen. B'Yosef הורד מצרימה ויקנהו פוטיפר סריס פרעה שר הטבחים איש מצרי מיד הישמעאלים אשר הורדוהו שמה. ויהי אדוני את יוסף ויהי איש מצליח ויהי בבית אדוניו המצרי. וירא אדוניו כי אדוני איתו בכל אשר הוא עושה אדוני מצליח בידו. וימצא יוסף חן בעיניו וישרת אותו. ויפקדהו על ביתו בכל אשר לו נתן בידו. בכל יש לו נתן בידו. ויהי מאז הפקיד אותו בביתו אשר בעל כל אשר יש לו. ויברך אדוני את בית המצרי בגלל יוסף. ויהי ברכת אדוני בכל אשר יש לו בבית ובשדה. ויעזוב כל אשר לו ביד יוסף. ולא ידע אותו איתו מאומה כי אם הלחם אשר הוא אוכל. ויהי יוסף יפה תואר ויפה מראה.
אשר נתננו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נתן בשבחנו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. אמן.
ישברך אבותינו ואימותינו שרה, רבקה, רחל, לאה, אברהם, יצחק, יעקב. ancestors and the merit of the Torah and the merit of Shabbat, for those who came up for this first Aliyah, Diane and I are going to bless you. I'm going to bless you that you are able, that as we move into Hanukkah, that you could take that stone, that light is your amulet, that you can figure out what that amulet is for yourself, to really identify it, clarify it, shine it, make it yours, and whatever tool, whatever amulet that you need to hold, to make whatever is the darkest lighter, and to really bring yourself to understand that it's a real spinning top, a dreidel that goes up and down. If you can find that thing that makes a reminder possible for you, I bless you with that power as we go into Hanukkah to have that kind of light inside you.
I bless you with comfort and grief, life and death, joy and sorrow, and the wheel turning in such a way that you can hold on to the whole even when you're in the dark places, and hold on to the light. Amen, amen.
Amen.
The next reading is on page 239, and it will be brought to us by Jamie Askin. For a moment, a kavanah. So, boker tov, everyone. A Jew and two Jews and a Muslim, and one who just finished writing a new look into Gilgamesh, gathered at a table for Thanksgiving. And as we were peeling clementines, this is what we talked about. Really, these verses from 7 to 10. And as it reads here, it's very terse. Lie with me. He refused. He wields, let's see, he wields no more authority. There is a coaxing and there is a not yielding, very terse. But we saw that in our Talmud, on the Gemara Masechet Sotah, the rabbis look at this Torah reading in a different way. They say that Yosef nearly, that almost succumbed to the advances of Potiphar, but it was only when the image of his father appeared to him in the window. Let's look at the windows around where we are. In the dark, I've been in the sanctuary in pitch dark, but these windows always gave me a light. So, what are these windows that appear before when there's a challenge? For me, it's the window. It appears here sometimes. I hear it and I sense my teacher, Yuriko. And then I have another teacher here on the other side, we call Safta Gabi, and when it's like difficult times, terse times, we call her Madam. So those are windows that appear to me that keep me from doing what is not right. But however, in our Torah reading, the next reading will be about a woman who has no name, right? So what is this window of a woman without a name? But in that little table, in our Thanksgiving table, with the Jew and the Muslim, and the one who just did a translation of Gilgamesh, we brought out other ways of looking at the woman without a name. And in great Sufi Persian mystics like Rumi and Hafez, they see that this person was called Zuleika. Zuleika meaning brilliant. She was brilliance herself. And that for Rumi, the poet Rumi, Zuleika's obsession with Yosef was a symptom of our great longing for God, right? And And Rumi insisted that it is true of any person's deep love for God. But in most of the commentaries that you will see, villainous, right? Villainous, seductress, better she should have no name. But in one book, a midrashic interpretation of these teachings from the medieval ages called Sefer Hayashar, there's another look at this. And in this, Yosef is not 17, but 18. But yes, beautiful. Beautiful, pleasant of appearance, with beautiful eyes. And it is said that Yosef was in his master's house, and this woman, Zuleika, lifted up her eyes, as I'm going to lift up my eyes all the time whenever I'm here, just to look at these windows around me. She lifted up her eyes to Yosef, and she was so beguiled. She persuaded him day after day, please lift up your eyes yourself, like look at me. And Zuleika would say, I've never seen anyone as beautiful. But then he would say, oh, others have been created like me by the Holy One, blessed be, and they are too beautiful. And she would say, oh, but you are more beautiful than another. But then he would say, you should see me. Right? You would see that these eyes are beautiful when they're alive, but were you to see them in the grave, you would tremble. And so this back and forth, and she would say, oh, in Sefer Hayashar, oh, take your harp which is in your house and play them with your hands. And then Joseph would answer, oh, when I sing praises and glory to God, my words are sweet. And then it would continue, oh, your hair is beautiful. Take that comb from your house and comb your hair. And then he would say, stop talking to me. So I compare this to the terse language in our Torah. 7 to 10, that's it, those verses. She came on to him, he refused. But here he says to her, stop this, cease, attend to the work that's about in your house. And then she would say, but there's no work to be done. I am the mistress of the house. There's no work to be done. But then, in spite of all that, this back and forth, she could not attract. She could not attract him. And so it was so impossible, and she was filled with such desire. It is said in Sefer Hayashar, she fell to a hard state of love sickness. Right? Like so much desire. And she was just, like sick in her heart. So what did she do? As the dueña of the house would do, she ordered a feast. She asked her maidens, prepare your best meats, bring it out, and women, let's eat, and women enjoy this feast. And it said that all the women ate in Zuleika's house, and she gave them knives to peel, not clementines, but etrogim. So there we were at Thanksgiving dinner, peeling clementines. And so the story goes that the knives, so they were peeling these etrogim, and comes Zuleika and she orders Yosef to make sure to put beautiful garments, beautiful clothing on Yosef, right? When he comes in, not the story that we have where he had ran, Bayanus vayetse, and he escaped, but rather the clothing was, let me put clothing on you. Not that you escaped and all I have in my hand is your clothing. And so they said that the women saw him, and again, it was such beauty emanating from him that they were peeling the etrogim with their hands, and then the oranges, not the clementines, but etrogim became covered with blood. They noticed, and they did not even notice that their hands were bleeding. And Zuleika saw them, and she said, Ma asher asiten, what have you done? What have you done? I've given you etrogim. Halo etrogim natati lifnechem leechol. This is for you to eat, but you have cut your hands instead. All of you. "Watiftachu atem kulchem yedechem." Look at your hands. And they looked at their hands and looked at them, and they were bleeding, and the blood was flowing down their garments. And they said to her, "We were looking at him. We were looking at this servant, this Eved Ivri that you have brought into the house, and we have been so charmed, we couldn't turn our eyes." It's actually, it says, "Velo yacholnu lahasir af apayim." We couldn't even, these eyelids were just wanted to stay open because of his beauty. Those 3 verses expanded into a narrative where human beings are involved, and there is a repercussion, yes, of relationships. There is a repercussion of images of that. My teachers here, of the windows into this room, of the windows into our world of our Torah. If this is your chance to come up to Lichvod HaMakom, Lichvod HaTorah, Lichvod HaShabbat, to come up for the second Aliyah, may it be that you find windows into your soul, windows into the dreams that you have, and yes, more windows into the Torah that is written before us. If that is your call, please come up. Windows into your soul, windows into your dreams, and windows into the Torah opening up. Ta'amdu, ya'amdu. Ta'amod. Ta'amod li'aliyah shanit. It's you. Come. And Jamie will be reading. Yeah. Come. Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Ba'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Ba'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu michol ha'amim ונתן לנו את תורתו. Baruch Ata Adonai נותן התורה. Amen.
אמן. ויהי אחר הדברים האלה, ותישא אשת אדוניו את עיניה אל יוסף, ותאמר שכבה עמי, ויאמר אל אשת אדוניו, הן אדוני לא ידעתי מה בבית, וכל אשר יש לו נתן בידי. איננו גדול בבית כהזה ממני, ולא השך ממני מאומה, כי אם אותך באשר את אשתו, ואין אעשה הרעה הגדולה הזאת, וחטאתי לאלוהים. ויהי כדברה אל יוסף יום יום, ולא שמע אליך לשכב אצלה להיות עמה.
a blessing. Mishabek kabateno v'chamitzak b'Yaakov ve'imotenu sarariv karachel b'leah hu yevarech. Come tell me your Hebrew name, your full Hebrew name. Sarah Miriam. Sarah Miriam, who's come today to honor Torah, lichvod HaTorah, lichvod HaShabbat, lichvod HaMakom, to come and bring your presence here with us. May all the works of your hands be blessed. May you have good health. May you have success in everything that you do. And may these windows always shine a light in the deepest, darkest places, but even in the Torah that you have and in the dreams that you will continue to have, may they be prophetic ones. And we all say, and if we agree, Amen.
I'm going to sit down. This is great. Rabbi Mira, totally, I couldn't have planned it even better. We're gonna take a few seconds. This last little part of the parsha that we're gonna read today is about Yosef actually saying, I feel like there's so many microphones all pointing in different directions. I'm just gonna point that one over here and we're gonna go with these. Great, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. About Yosef actually saying no. And the rabbis in our tradition, let's acknowledge, a bunch of men who presumably were very young, asked the question, how in the world did Yosef, who's living away from home, this 17-year-old handsome man, how does he say no to Potiphar's wife? And that's this midrash that Rabbi Mira brought us, that as he enters into the house, he sees not just a window, but he sees a particular face on the other side of the window. In fact, he sees his father's face. I don't know about you, but I also have those little, sometimes it's a voice, sometimes it's a vision of, sometimes it's a teacher, it's more often my father. And he's usually saying something slightly helpful, but also judgmental. And that's kind of what is happening in this midrash. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at where the rabbis are doing something totally wild. They're taking this from, I think this is page, I have it bookmarked here. We're going to see. This is from later on in Genesis, in 49, when Jacob is actually talking to all of his sons. He's kind of giving a little bit of a blessing. We're on page 304 if you want to see these words in front of you. And Jacob is going through. He gets to Yosef. He says, Yosef, you dodged arrows, which for the record, coming from Jacob, is absolutely a little bit of a personal trauma thing, right? Esav is known as being the hunter, as being the one who has a very strong bow and arrow. So him acknowledging that is kind of is a very personal thing for Jacob. And he says that, by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob, is he talking about himself? Is he talking about all the people of Israel? Kind of unclear. It's a little bit ambiguous, maybe on purpose. And then there's this line that if you're looking in the Eitz Chaim, it's going to say that this could potentially be Mishem, but here it says Misham, from there. Ro'eh Evan Yisrael. There, the shepherd, a very common job for many of our patriarchs. Evan Yisrael, the rock of Israel. Again, little unclear who they're actually talking about. Are we talking about Yisrael the person or Yisrael the people? That's what the rabbis are going to totally turn on their head. So that line, Ro'eh, Resh Ayin He, means shepherd. The rabbis are you could just read that a different way. Read it like Vayar Elohim et kol asher asa, like the word Yud, or in this case, it would be Resh Vav, Aleph He, Ro'eh, the one who sees. Evan, which in the Talmud can also mean like something that's been chiseled out of stone, specifically a graven image. So they're saying, Evan, the stone that you're talking about is actually specifically an image. And Yisrael, they're that one, we know definitely who it's talking about. it's for sure talking about Israel, the person. And they're saying that literally what he sees outside the window is Ro'eh Evan Yisrael. He sees the image of his father. If you look down a little bit further, he also gets blessed Birkot HaTahom, which literally means like the blessings from the deep, from the depth. It's the same thing that the divine kind of conquers in the Genesis story, is the Tahom, the total kind of tohu v'bohu, the chaos. And so this next aliyah is not going to be for people who hear the voice inside their head, because for some of us those are really helpful voices. For some of us those voices are just like not helpful, or maybe they're not existent. We're actually going to take on the role of the rabbis, who I think in this particular moment are doing something totally crazy. They're looking at the Torah and saying, we know something that's written there. It's just not written there. There's a secret within this that transforms this blessing into a totally different blessing. And so I invite you, if you feel called, as someone who maybe it's been in the last year, or maybe it's been a little bit longer than that, if you feel like something that initially was passed along to you has totally changed, and you've transformed it. What the rabbis are doing in this midrash is they're transforming a blessing to another blessing. So I invite you to come up to the Torah if either in the past year you felt a blessing be transformed, or if you're being a little hopeful and you'd like to see a blessing transform. We have a lot of things in our lives that feel like they were kind of bestowed onto us as a blessing, or maybe sometimes, like the Talmud likes to do it, as a blessing in quotation marks, which is kind of like a little bit of an obligation. So if you'd like to see one of those blessings or one of those obligations transformed into something in this new year, I invite you to come up. Ya'amdu kol, everyone who wants to see a change.
Hold on.
For those of you, page 240, verse 11. So I think, no.
Hold on, I have to find it. Okay. Amen. Vayehi, kayom hazeh vayavo הביתה לעשות מלאכתו ואין איש מאנשי הבית שם בבית. ותתפסהו בבגדו לאמור שכבה עמי. ויעזוב בגדו בידה וינוס ויצא החוצה. ויהי כרותה כי עזב בגדו בידה וינוס החוצה. ותקרא לאנשי ביתה ותאמר להם לאמור ראו הביא לנו איש עברי לשחק בנו. בא אליי לשכב עמי ואקרא בקול גדול. ויהי כשמעו כי הרימותי קולי ואקרא. ויעזוב בגדו אצלי וינוס ויצא החוצה. ותנח בגדו אצלה עד בוא אדוניו אל ביתו ותדבר אליו כדברים האלה לאמור. בא אליי העבד העברי אשר הבאת לנו לשחק בי. ויהי כהרימי, כהרימי קולי, ואקרא ואאסוף בגדו אצלי וינוס החוצה.
Amen. Misha Berach Lavotenu V'imotenu. May the one who blessed our ancestors. I hope this year, for both of you and for all of us, is a year of holy chutzpah. To look at things as they are, both in text and in other places, and say, this isn't what I need. And to say that I can get something else from this, or maybe it's from a place, or maybe it's from people. And I hope that you have that holy chutzpah, not only in when you come close to the Torah in whatever it looks like, but also when you enter into communities and when you enter into relationships, that you're able to ask for what you need. And that you know that even if it says something on the page, maybe there's just something more that's to be graced out of it. And so I bless both of you, and I bless all of you with this holy chutzpah.
Amen. Amen. Please rise. Coffee Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yamad yivrach yirutei v'yamlech malchutei. B'chayechonu v'yomechon uv'chayedecha Beit Yisrael. Bagala uvizman kariv yimiru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach Leolam leomei almaya yitbarach Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitromam v'yitnahasei v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudeshav v'yela mikol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamiram be'alma yimru amen. And the merit of all the Torah, all the beautiful wisdom and all the beautiful insights that were brought this morning, we're going to pray for healing for those who are sick in mind, body, and spirit. We turn to page 54. We also bring names on the screen of those who are as part of need to be healed community. Bring them into your heart, bring them into your mind. Shaberach Avotenu V'imotenu, and the merit of our ancestors, and the merit of Shabbat, even though it is Shabbat, and the merit of this day and the divine presence in our midst, we bring the healing as quick as possible in mind, body, and spirit to those who are in need, and let us say, Amen. Tamdu, Hagba V'Galila, Yamdu.
mitzvot haTorah asher sa Moshe livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai ve'al Moshe. Say shalom bimromah, say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oh, say shalom bimromahu, yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'yimeru amen. Oh, say shalom bimromahu, yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'yimeru amen. Oh, say shalom bimromahu, yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'yimeru amen.
Hallelujah, et Shem Adonai, ki niskav shemo levado. Al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren li'amo, tila lechol chasidam, livnei Yisrael amkero. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod va'oz, Havul Adonai kivod shemo, Hishtachavu Adonai behadrat kodesh, Kol Adonai el hamayim, el hakavodim Adonai al mayim rabim, Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, Vayarkidei kimo egel, Levado v'siryon kimo ven re'ebim, Kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yechol elayalo, Vayechesof ye'arot, Uvehechalo kolo omer kavod, Adonai lama boyasha, Yeshev Adonai melech le'olam, Adonai oz li'amo yiten, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Eitz chayim hi lemachazikim ba, v'tomchecha me'ushar, terachea page 57. Ki Adonai, Hu Elohim,
V'hashevota el levavecha. Ki Adonai, Hu Elohim, Eino milvado, Eino nefesh zulato, Eino milvado, Eino efes zulato, v'hashevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hu Elohim, v'hashevota elevavecha, ki Adonai hi Elohim, Eino milvado, Eino efes zulato, Eino milvado, Eino efes zulato. V'haya Adonai v'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo
You may be seated. If you're in mourning, please remain standing if you feel comfortable to share the name of those you are remembering today. If it is Yahrzeit, or if you're in mourning, page 59 is going to be the Mourner's Kaddish, but we will go around for a minute.
William Valley, my son, and Marty Riemann, an old friend who died on Hanukkah.
Anybody else?
My mother, Vivian Esses.
For the first Shiva, we have Roslyn Berlin that we're remembering, Maria de Los Angeles Rodriguez, and Shloshim. The next slide is going to have Shloshim. Jenny Martin, Jeff Langley, Sheldon Tandler, Rosalind Lieberman, Suzanne Warner, Frida Weiss Wells, Gilbert Offenhartz, H. Harding Brown, L.J. Richmond Jr. And we're also going to put names in the chat. We're going to watch and we're going to hold the names of those who are being shared with us right now. Teach us to treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Oh, teach us to treasure each day, that we may open our hearts to your wisdom. Oh, teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day. Treasure each day. Teach us to treasure each day. It's your custom to rise with the mourners. Mourners Kaddish on page 59. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemeu Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrach yivutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayeichon v'yomeichon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kariv yimru.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach v'olam וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירם ביעלמה ויאמרו יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיים וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו amen. May their memory be for a blessing. We're going to fill up our cup of blessing. We're going to gather Rabbi Diane and Rabbi Meir, if you can join. Enter our cup of blessing, our davening team, Jackson Mercer, our rabbinic fellow, for your wisdom, for your music, for your voice, for your heart. Shosh Jadwab, for your priestessing on the drums, for your raising it up all the time, and for grounding us at the same time. Cyrus, for your handling and holding our technical sound in the Zoomiverse and universe and the additional, who else is in there? Who's in? In the Zoom room, we also have David Willinger as our Gabbai. Thank you so much for, and Elisa Marco for actually like being our Rosh Gabbai and really bringing the Gabbai Ut tradition to the entire team. Really big, huge gratitude.
It's just a beautiful, beautiful team, our Gabbai Ut, just to see them help each other, work with each other. It's a highlight of my Shabbat. Really, it really is a highlight.
Rabbi Diane, for your incredible opening us all up. And your open book. You're all opening. That's all you. That's what you do. You open us up. Rabbi Meir, for your beautiful, incredible, like, interpretation upon interpretation teaching that brought layers of depth and, like, incredible stories of your table and the clementines and the etrogim and this wisdom that you have, that you bring from so many different places. I don't know where you...
A Jewish, a Muslim, and someone who just
thought it was a
published
joke.
book. No, it's not. It's real.
I thought you...
Sophos is his name. Sophos just published a book on a new
Gilgamesh.
take on Gilgamesh. So there it was.
I know, but I thought you were going to tell a joke. And I was like, so, and then you went so much deep. Beautiful lady. And and Jamie asking for your shalshelet. Oh my goodness. That was like once in a lifetime, almost like, very, very, very rarely we have that kind of incredible trope. And I see you laughing and your voice and your laning is just out of this world. So huge gratitude. And
You got it. I'm good, thank you.
I did Jackson. I'll do you again, why not?
Sure, why not?
And all of you just showing up, thank you for coming post-Thanksgiving. If the tryptophan is still inside you, take a good Shabbos shluff after this.
Thank you, Basia Schechter.
Yeshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbos la'asot et ha-Shabbos l'doratam berit olam beini u'vei Yisrael otili olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doratam berit olam uvayom hashvi'i
Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash.
V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. על כן בירך את יום השבת ויקדשהו סברי חברי חיים ברך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הכפן.
Amen.
אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא הוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה והוא Shilo lehachbira, beli reshit, beli tachlit, velo ha'oz ve'ha'misra, vehu eli v'chai goali, v'tzorchav li ve'etzara, vehu nisi umazli, v'natosi beyom ekra, ve'yadov kiruchi, ve'eti sham ve'aira, ve'im ruchi geviati, Adonai li Elohira.
Good Shabbos. And
Shabbat
this chair,
shalom.
having Hassan Basia sitting on this chair is just really, really special.
I love chairs.